Well, thank you for joining today's webinar, Drive Business Outcomes with Video Data You Already Collect. Hi, I'm Bruce Rogers. I'm Forbes Chief Insights Officer, and I am joined today by Mahesh Saptharishi, Avigilon's Chief Technology Officer. But before we get started with introductions and walking you through the information that we're presenting today, I wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your audience console are multiple application widgets which you can use. If you have any questions during the webcast, you can click on the Q&A widget at the bottom and submit your question. And we will try to answer these during the webcast, but if a full answer is needed or if we run out of time, rest assured that we will answer all your questions later via email, as we do capture all the questions. And a copy of today's slide deck information and additional materials are available in the resource list widget that looks like a green folder at the bottom of your screen. And you can expand your slide area by clicking on the maximize icon at the top right of the slide area, or by dragging the bottom right corner of the slide area. And if you have any technical difficulties, please click on the help widget. It has a question mark icon and covers common technical issues. And an on-demand version of today's webcast will be available approximately one day after the live webcast and can be accessed using the same audience link that was sent to you earlier. So on to our presentation. Mahesh, thank you for joining this morning. For those listening in, as I said, Mahesh is Avigilon's Chief Technology Officer, where he is responsible for driving innovation in Avigilon's product and intellectual property portfolios, identifying strategic technology capabilities, and exploring new business opportunities. But here's some other highlights on Mahesh's impressive background. He was recently ranked #1 on the global list of the top 50 most influential people in security and fire. He has more than 17 years of experience developing intelligent video analytics technology, as well as software and camera hardware specifically for the security industry. And before becoming CTO, Dr. Saptharishi served as Senior Vice President, Analytics and Data Science at Avigilon, and has been with the company since its acquisition of VideoIQ in January of 2014. And prior to Avigilon, Dr. Saptharishi was President, CTO, and co-founder of VideoIQ, and he received his doctorate in machine learning from Carnegie Mellon University, where he was involved in research on autonomously navigating vehicles at the Robotics Institute and the Institute for Complex Engineering Systems. And for those who aren't familiar with me, again, my name is Bruce Rogers. I head up the Forbes Insights practice, and so welcome, Mahesh. So the content of this webinar is based on research that Forbes Insights conducted in partnership with Avigilon. And we fielded it in the spring of 2015, and as you can see on the slide, the survey was fielded to a little over 500 respondents who were senior executives across numerous industries and functions. And the objective of this survey was to learn how video analytics is being applied to video surveillance and what benefits these new technologies can bring to organizations as a whole. And we think you'll find some of the information quite telling. Now, Mahesh, before we dive into the findings, let's talk about your hypothesis going into the research and what you're expecting and hoping to come out of the research.
Sure. Thanks, Bruce. Over the past 15 years, camera technology has evolved and cost has come down quite considerably. But for most part, our hypothesis was that how this more evolved and more ubiquitous technology is used really hasn't changed significantly from the days of closed-circuit television, CCTV. So our expectation was that this survey would reveal the opportunity for video as a tool for insight, both within the security for security applications and beyond.
Okay, well, let's find out if that's indeed the fact. So one of the first questions we asked respondents was how businesses were using video surveillance And as we found, the majority of businesses are or what we think is underutilizing these technologies for even basic security issues. 2/3 of our respondents told us that they use video surveillance, estimate less than half of the footage is actually monitored. Only 9% reported 100% monitoring of surveillance footage. So a very small group of folks who are fully utilizing this valuable technology that they already have in place and are already paying for. Does this surprise you, Mahesh?
Not really. The fact of the matter is that live monitoring, traditional live monitoring of video, is an expensive proposition. So organizations weigh the cost of monitoring against the cost of the risk they hope to mitigate. So in addition, humans watching live video are not really very good at detecting suspicious events, but they're really good at verifying and responding to events. Now, there are actually multiple studies that were done on this topic, and they've shown that after about 20 minutes of watching a single monotonous security or surveillance video stream, security personnel will likely miss 95% of the activity in the scene. Now imagine detection performance where the operator needs to monitor tens or even hundreds or even thousands of cameras. So when you account for the risk-benefit analysis that organizations will carry out for video surveillance and traditional monitoring, this result is actually not very surprising at all.
Okay, great. Let's continue. Another telling finding was that even companies with video surveillance mechanisms and technologies in place, less than 15% have 75 to 100% of their valuable assets covered. But as you can see, as we show you on our next slide, that despite not having all of their assets covered, companies aren't investing further in video surveillance monitoring. And as you can see here, this is due to a number of reasons, but the primary one, which is typically cost effectiveness, perhaps some education needed there to understand the full value, and the fact that security is more often seen as a cost center and not as a value proposition. But certainly there are ways to increase efficiency in both storage and review of surveillance data. Is that correct, Mahesh?
That's right. As we mentioned before, it's actually a proven fact that humans are not good at the detection task at all. The detection task can be automated by video analytics. And with good quality video and modern compute technology, video analytics is actually a powerful focus of attention mechanism that dramatically increases the effectiveness of security personnel. So rather than have humans focus on the detection task, we can actually now have them focus on the verification and response. The cost of video analytics has also come down considerably, along with the complexity of installing it. So removing the detection task from the manual monitoring workflow enables security personnel to do significantly more in significantly less time. And ultimately, this fundamentally changes the risk-benefit equation for video surveillance. So beyond just security, for any tasks that benefit from continuous observation of the physical environment, understanding what is happening and responding appropriately, this concept of video analytics allowing one to do significantly more in significantly less time usually translates to a very clear return on investment.
So that's great. So Mahesh, what you're actually saying is what we alluded to originally, is that with video, with proper approach to video analytics, companies can turn what they saw as security as a cost center to as a value center. Great. So let's kind of stand back and discuss what is the concept. We've been talking about video analytics. What really does that mean? Do you feel, Mahesh, that companies understand the benefits of it? Do they understand the full value proposition? And as I said, not just in the sense of cutting costs, but helping businesses in other ways. What's your perspective there?
Yeah, so companies have actually been trying to figure out the right use for video analytics for quite a long time. And using video analytics usually means that there's a change to the typical monitoring workflow. And in security applications, changing any sort of typical workflow means that you're willing to place a certain amount of trust in that change. Once these changes are made, the companies that sort of have understood what analytics can do and cannot do are often be able to unlock its potential, both within security and also beyond. When analytics was actually first introduced into the market, there's an acute sense of overpromise and underdelivery. If companies did indeed need to trust in the change to their workflows, that trust was actually quite hard to come by with all the initial hype surrounding video analytics. As we talked about before, 20 minutes of watching monotonous video leads to attention loss. Analytics is only meant to present interesting video to security personnel. And early analytics suffered from a very high nuisance alarm rate. So what was supposed to be just interesting video turned into a foundation of a different sort of monotony, a whole lot of nuisance alarms in sequence. So on top of this, the cost of analytics installing, operating, and maintaining it was also incredibly high. Technology and expectations have evolved considerably over the past few years. We started with motion detection where, pretty much any change from one frame to the other was considered interesting. And as a consequence, the majority of the changes in the scene that tend to be like lighting changes, moving tree branches, shadows, etc., they're all fundamentally uninteresting, and they all resulted in an unacceptably high nuisance alarm rate. So the technology successor to motion detection was really advanced motion detection. And advanced motion detection had a nice benefit of filtering out not just the static elements of a scene, but also eliminating all the repetitive changes in the scene. So this actually helped cut down on a significant number of nuisance alarms. But things like birds, animals, other sort of non-repetitive changes in the scene continued to be a problem. And it ended up being sufficiently a problem that it was still not necessarily usable for live monitoring, or didn't really cut down the time required for live monitoring sufficiently for it to be affordable and useful. So the next evolution of advanced video motion detection was really advanced pattern detection. And the key advance here was that we could actually tell if a change was a human, a vehicle, or just some other interesting object. So while pattern detection doesn't eliminate all false alarms, it definitely brings it down to a level where we actually see dramatic improvements in operator effectiveness and reduced attention deficit. So we cut down on the amount of time the operator spends working on things that are really uninteresting, that really don't require a whole lot of attention. We finally get to a point where security personnel can actually do dramatically more in dramatically less time. And given that we're here now, we're at the stage where the customer actually sees a clear ROI, because we started with this premise that live monitoring is incredibly expensive, and as a consequence, not a lot of people take advantage of it. By really empowering the operator to do a whole lot more in a significantly less time, it actually becomes affordable, and companies can actually see an ROI in monitoring and using video more appropriately.
So that's great, Mahesh. Certainly, it seems like the technology had to mature in order for that to happen, but certainly folks listening in on today's webinar can get educated to the potential that is there. So Mahesh, there's been a lot of technological developments in the industry, both in terms of video surveillance technology and video analytics that companies can now use video data to serve other parts of the business and not just those around security. That's correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Bruce. Video analytics tend to provide a rich description of whatever's happening in the scene. This is not unlike the data that online retailers like Amazon and others collect every time you visit their site. For example, how many people entered the site, what did these people spend the bulk of their time looking, in what sequence did they look at a set of products, etc. And much like this, online customer behavior data has fueled numerous big data engines for business intelligence. Video analytics is offering a treasure trove of data for physical environments to fuel new big data engines for business intelligence. But the value in this wealth of information from physical environments is just starting to get attention. And many are still unaware of the possibilities, even if they're active users of traditional BI tools today.
That's great. I love this notion of treasure trove of data. As we found in our research, businesses are, as we said, regularly collecting and storing video data, 80% of our respondent base, but only slightly less than a quarter are reviewing it on a regular basis. And we can agree that that's certainly a missed opportunity. Wouldn't you say, Mahesh?
Oh yes, it's absolutely a missed opportunity. Video data is so rich with information that businesses who already pay to record and store this data can and really should be making better use of it, and even beyond just security.
So as we said, it's surprising, despite the opportunities that we've been talking about afforded by video analytics. As you can see here, our research shows that the top uses of video surveillance remain security, 64% of our respondent base, and use it primarily for theft protection. Secondarily, 62% for facility security, followed by 57% for employee security. So although this is not shown in this graph here, when we asked how video surveillance is currently used within their organization, only 1 in 5, a little less than 1 in 5, cited business intelligence, and really only a little more than 1 in 10 said that they use it to support business decision making. So again, I think we have this point of missed opportunity. What's interesting, though, is the discrepancy between video analytics users and non-users, and the delta between those. And as we found, companies that already use video analytics apply surveillance to a much wider range of usage than non-users. And let's take a look at that. So as you can see here, for example, 38% of video analytics using organizations use video surveillance for business intelligence, compared with just 7% of the non-users of video analytics. And that huge data, huge delta between those plays out throughout these categories of business intelligence, foot traffic counts, concierge and customer service opportunities, and other opportunities to support business decision making. So that's an important point, I think. Applying video analytics to video surveillance can extend beyond the security realm and drive business strategy and decision making, certainly. Mahesh, can you explain the benefits of video analytics a little more for our audience?
Sure. So think about predictive analytics and data science techniques used by online retailers today. When you go to an Amazon website and you've been there previously, you suddenly get recommendations that are very germane to what you were looking for. They often recommend other products that you might not have thought of, but are very relevant to the types of problems you're trying to look to solve with whatever products you're looking at currently. All this is really driven by some fairly powerful predictive analytics and data science engines. And if you now map those same advantages over to a brick and mortar store, they've largely missed out on that wealth of information that sort of led to those recommendations and that analysis with suggestions on what to buy and increasing that conversion rate of that customer base. Brick and mortar stores historically have just focused on point of sale data, and that's really been their only source of insight into customer behaviors. But what about understanding all those customers who came into the store but really didn't buy anything? What about understanding how, when, and where employees should interact with customers to enable a sale? Here's where analytics can actually help answer some of these questions for brick and mortar retailers. And there are also other interesting uses beyond retail as well. For example, understanding activity also helps understand patterns that can optimize energy usage in a building. Do I need to turn up the heat when there's actually no one there? Do I need to close the blinds because it's really bright outside? There are many such uses where having video data, using analytics to process that video data, really helps optimize operational efficiency. increase operational efficiency. And also, other interesting applications like in a city surveillance scenario, finding the next free parking spot, really minimizing the number of people who have to just drive around looking for something which they could easily find if video were only searchable. Being able to make sure that as a service organization, you have the right ratio of employees to customers. These insights, the decision-making that's involved in all of this can actually benefit greatly by the type of metadata, the type of information and analytics that video generates and video analytics sort of supports. Ultimately, the benefit for video and video analytics is to allow employees to do significantly more in significantly less time. And when we achieve that, this is what translates to a clear ROI. One of our partners who actually provides remote monitoring services to many of their clients is able to do so at a very cost-effective price because they use analytics as a focus of attention mechanism for each of their operators. What this does is each operator can suddenly very cost-effectively monitor many sites. And this comes at a quarter of the cost of on-site guards. So by dramatically increasing the effectiveness of a single remote monitoring operator, businesses of all sizes that could never afford live monitoring before can now benefit from Acadian's valuable services. And all this is really enabled by video analytics.
Well, that's great. That's a perfect real-world use case that hopefully the folks listening in can apply to their own businesses. So we've covered a lot of material here, Mahesh. And so let's sum up now some of the findings we've discussed about the research. And certainly it shows that the majority of organizations are not fully understanding the value of video analytics. And again, perhaps it's a education challenge to overcome, and hopefully that's what we're doing today in regards to both applications both within and outside security, and that businesses are already incurring costs to collect and store video data, so why not mine it for actionable insight that you were just, the kind of use case you were just describing before. And I think this point says it pretty clearly. If businesses review databases like they do for every part of their business, why aren't they using video analytics data for the same purposes? Are there other takeaways that you'd like to comment on, Mahesh?
Sure. So take the example of business intelligence today. It's a lot about automatic understanding and effective decision making. Video from this perspective has been like a wise man who speaks a language that no one understands. And video analytics ultimately is that interpreter that you need. If a business benefits from observing, understanding, and acting on activities in a physical environment, then video analytics most likely has a role, and usually with a clear ROI in those cases.
That's great. So from those conclusions and from the research and from the use cases that we've provided, and more in-depth use cases as we have in the full report, which you'll be able to access after this webinar, I think we have some clear recommendations on next steps, and hopefully some things that people can put into practice literally the next day after reviewing this webinar. So certainly we can recommend that the use of video analytics is there to cost-effectively protect all of your valuable assets. That kind of goes without saying, and that it, more importantly, can create a foundation of intelligence, with video surveillance being an added pattern-based video source of data, and you can use those patterns to understand customer and consumer behavior, and how you can apply those resources outside of just the security realm, and familiarize your non-security staff with capabilities to better understand how video surveillance data can be used to achieve their objectives. Again, an educational issue. And don't just store video data, use the information it contains to help drive business objectives. Any other recommendations you want to provide our audience today?
Yeah, more of a thought, I think, Bruce. So, one of the past failures of how video analytics was used was that it was viewed as a replacement for human decision making. Instead, the right use of video analytics is really as an augmentation of the capabilities of individuals, really empowering the employees who are part of the organization. So the use of video analytics really should be put in the context of helping your employees do significantly more in significantly less time. It is really empowering their decision making by helping them see more, understand more, and to do so in a very timely manner. And that's really what underpins the successful use of video analytics.
Well, that's sage advice indeed. Well, thank you all for listening in. We have a few moments left to answer a few questions from our listeners. And one of the first questions we have is, I'm interested to know where organizations currently stand in terms of their video analytics capabilities. And as we showed here, certainly we have a lot of data around that, and it's a great question. And what we found, according to the research, that when asked if their company's existing video surveillance had analytics capabilities, sort of the basics that we've been talking about, just a little over 1/3, 36% of companies said yes. So certainly there's a lot of room for improvement just on adding analytics capabilities to video. And for those who did have video analytics capabilities, just a little under half, 49%, had advanced video pattern detection in place. And as Mahesh was talking about, this is software that can recognize objects as humans or vehicles and only send alerts for things they do. Anything you want to add to that to answer our listener's question?
Sure. We talked a lot about how video contains incredibly useful information. But we also talked a lot about a lot of the real-time capabilities of video analytics. If you think of the internet as a huge repository of very useful data, one of the things that really brought that data to light and sort of made it as powerful as it is today is really the capability to search that data, find what in that needle in the haystack, the answer to that one question that you really needed to drill down into the data for. And video analytics not only offers real-time capabilities, but it really makes video also searchable. And that's a very key benefit and a key capability of analytics. So that even when certain applications where real-time monitoring is perhaps unnecessary or not the right tool, the ability to search through large stores of video very quickly also has benefits both in security applications and also beyond. Now, just understanding what happened in the physical environment over the past month or year, whether we're talking about a store, a building, a campus, or even a city, in a matter of minutes can provide profound insights on how operational efficiency and quality of service can dramatically be improved.
Interesting. Great insight, Mahesh. Thank you. We have another question. We were asked, do you think most people understand the value of analytics? Which I guess is kind of the point of this whole program today. So, Mahesh, I'll let you tackle that one.
Sure. So according to the survey, 69% of the respondents said that video analytics was important, very important, or extremely important to their organization. And 45% of these respondents said that there were some plans to invest in video analytics in the future. So I think the understanding is there, but there's certainly room for improvement. Only 36% of the respondents said they'd like to expand the use of video analytics to help their business in ways outside security. I think that's the missed opportunity right there. Video analytics now comes embedded within most surveillance hardware and software components. It is no longer a complicated add-on. Costs have come down significantly. And really, the cost-benefit equation of analytics has changed for the better, and organizations will be able to use data from their physical environments in ways that they never thought was possible before.
Well, that's great. I think that is probably the key takeaway from today is that certainly it's a missed opportunity, and certainly folks can take some first steps towards maximizing the benefits of using video analytics to its fullest extent. Well, that's about all the time we have for today. Thank you all for listening in. I hope you found it interesting, and for those who provided your questions. And for those who we didn't get a chance to answer, please feel free to submit them via the chat box in your interface. And of course, as we said at the outset, we'll follow up via email. And Mahesh, again, thank you so much for providing your deep depth of knowledge and insight about this very important topic, and for the insightful conversation. And listeners, if you're interested in learning more about what we had to present today, certainly, as you said, you can go to Forbes.com/Forbes Insights for an executive briefing published on the research. And we'll be releasing a full white paper later this month, and we will certainly alert all of you to that opportunity when it's available. So again, thank you, Mahesh, and thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Bruce. It was my pleasure.